Hey guys, BNSF Real Fans here, and we're going to be doing a video review of this new InterMountain ES44AC with LokSound, which is different because the other GEVOs of the fleet have Tsunami, and this is the newest run. So yeah, I'm going to have Cam run you down through the features and such of this locomotive.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start first, with the paint scheme, and then we'll move on to details. As you see, this is the first heritage locomotive in our fleet. It carries the Santa Fe warbonnet scheme that was applied to like F units, and then later on, late in Santa Fe's existence, they were on GE wide cabs in the super fleet and other locomotives like GP60Ms. So as a tribute to that railroad, we've kind of started collecting, or we're going to start collecting units with heritage schemes, and this is for Santa Fe obviously. But the paint scheme itself looks very good. If you look at the front, the red is crisp, and the separation between the logo on the front, like the black and yellow in the actual bonnet with the meeting the silver on the long hood, looks very good as well. There's no bleeding at all, and the colors themselves look very accurate. I don't have a warbonnet locomotive myself, and I haven't like seen one in fresh paint, obviously, because most of them are faded by now. But it does look very good. I believe the color is correct, and it's not like glossy or shiny or anything. There's just something about the red itself that looks good and makes the locomotive look pretty
And the
crisp.
silver is very good too.
Yeah, the silver is as well, because it's not like obnoxiously glossy and bright, but it's also not really dull. So yeah, that's about it I have to say for the paint scheme, except one thing we did was we painted the end handrails white, just because that's going to be a standard on our heritage fleet, as the new heritage 3 steam locomotives have white end handrails, and so we added those there. And then the other thing we did for the MU hoses and cables was add silver tips, and that's about all the modifications we made. So these units don't come with the silver tipped MU hoses and cables, while the newer Norfolk Southern Heritage units do, but they might update that in the future. So that's all we did paint-wise. So I guess now we'll move on to the details. As you can see on the front, it comes fully equipped with MU hoses and cables and the train airline hose, and also a coupler cut bar. And those all look very good. They're molded well, the separation is good, and they haven't broken off or anything, so they came from the factory pretty much perfect. And I think they look good. Some of them, like some models, they're like either like droopy or they snug to the pilot too much, but these carry a good appearance, just like they should be sitting over the plow. And then on the nose, you can see we have grab irons, metal grab irons that go up the nose, and then on top you have the longer grab irons on the nose, and also the smaller one above the number boards there. The windshield wipers themselves are etched metal. If you've seen a review of the GEVO, the InterMountain GEVO at any point, you'll know that's kind of standard. And all the detail hasn't really changed from previous runs.
Yeah, we've already done 2 reviews on other GEVOs, different runs like that.
So you can check those videos out. We'll probably just kind of like gloss over the detail. There might be a few things that we might not cover in great depth, but we kind of want to focus on the sound itself, and we'll compare that later. But moving along to the side of the locomotive, you can see on the cab windows there is an armrest and a mirror slash windbreaker thing.
And the cool thing on these units is they're actually painted the cab color, which is red, which is kind of unique. It kind of stood out to me because obviously on the BNSF units they're silver, so it's just a unique little thing.
Yeah. And then you also have all the like louvers and stuff on the side there. Yeah, and then those are the dynamic brake grills, and then the actual like slots on the other side are see-through as well, obviously, and they look good. The door detail is pretty good as well. It's the separation and depth looks good, in my opinion. The handrails are kind of like an important part of any model, and everyone complains about them. But these are good on this model for sure. They look good. They're very scale, but they're also pretty sturdy. So you'll have a hard time breaking them. The truck detail is also very good. We have the dampers on each truck and the airline going between the two cylinders on either side, or on each end of the truck. And then everything's molded well, so you have springs and everything. On the side of the fuel tank, you have all the air tank detail and the airline connections between the two tanks themselves. You have the fuel fill gauges and hatches there that look good. Towards the rear of the tank, you have the GE air compressor, and that sound is actually included in the sound file as well. And then all the grill detail towards the rear is also correct for this prototype. So yeah, that's about it. On the rear, nothing's different. I mean, same detail as the front. Yeah, so I think that's it. If we look at the top of the locomotive really quick, you can see that we do have the air conditioner and GPS dome, and those are accurate. This locomotive obviously wasn't really produced, but if you take an example of a GE ES44AC from this run, those are the two domes that you'd see on top. You have a little tiny grab iron just behind the cab going to the long hood, and then the panels on top of the roof look very good as well. They have pretty good depth. If you've ever seen the Athearn model, it's not as good as that because theirs are undercut, but these have a good appearance. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then the horn looks good. It's a K5HL, pretty sure. I'm not a horn nerd, but the correct sound file is also included for that. The stack, the exhaust stack, looks pretty good. And
also, there's anti-skid along the top.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You might have a hard time seeing it, but if you see it in person, there's silver, but then there actually is like an anti-skid mark down the middle, which is a little more matte than the rest of the locomotive. Yeah, so that's kind of a cool feature that I'm glad they paid attention to, because I think a lot of manufacturers would just kind of go over that and not really pay attention to it at all, but I think it's a good feature. So I think that's about it for the details. Now we'll get into lighting and sounds. As you hear, the locomotive is starting up right now. I may have spoken over the bell, but we'll just listen to it a little bit here. So the startup's very nice. It takes a while because it's like the long version of the startup. It starts with that ringing bell, and the engine starts to rev up, and then even though it sounds like it's already in idle, it's actually not. It takes a little bit until you can actually move the locomotive, and that's one of the features of these LokSound decoders. You can't move the locomotive until it's in idle, and it won't move until it's like notched up. So even if I go into speed step 1, which I'll do right here, it won't move until the sounds start. Except it kind of defied me there. Okay, usually that's true. I don't know why it's different right now, but that's one of the features of these sound decoders, which is kind of cool. I guess I'll run through the lights really quick, and then we'll actually do some of the sound functions. So as you can see, the headlight comes on, and it kind of fades in nicely, which is kind of cool. You do have number board lights, which is a standard on all InterMountain GEVOs. Then you also have very nice ditch lights, and I think the lights are really cool. They're very crisp and bright, and they're
nice white color.
Yeah, that's what we noticed initially. And then when you blow the horn, they do flash. That's not prototypical for BNSF per se.
We programmed them off, but then we had a programming issue with the layout, and it kind of got reset. So yeah, we're gonna change that again.
Yeah. So those flash, but you can change that. And if you, sorry I'm skipping around, but you'll probably just notice that the locomotive went into low idle there, which is a feature of these sound decoders as well. We'll cover that in a second. But yeah, and then obviously you can dim the headlight as well with function 7. That's about all you have for lighting, but it looks very good. So for the sounds, one of the cool things about the LokSound decoders is that it functions like a real locomotive, so it goes through cycles like a prototype would. So as you heard, there's a startup, and then it went into high idle, so the engine's warming up, and then after it's been in high idle for a while, it will drop into low idle, and it'll fluctuate back and forth for a bit, and then after a few minutes, it'll actually shut off. And then when the locomotive's been sitting off for a while, to simulate the auto start function, it'll turn back on to keep the engine warm. So that is simulated in the sound decoder, which is a really cool effect in my opinion. Sometimes it probably can get annoying if you want to start your train and all of a sudden it shuts off and you have to wait for the sounds to start back up. But you can actually turn that function off, so I think it's really cool. Now we'll listen to the bell and horn and a few other features. So here's the bell, the E-bell. Sounds really good, and the cool thing about it is you can actually turn it off like mid bell. So like I'll do an example really quick. You can just like shut it off like you would be able to with an E-bell, which is a nice little effect there. And then I think they got the horn very correct. The Soundtraxx model is okay, and I think a lot of people complained about it, but this horn sounds very good in my opinion. It's fun because you can actually play with the horn some. It's very usable, and sometimes the Tsunami horns are a little laggy as you have to get off the button and then wait a few seconds and then play the horn again. But with this horn you can just kind of do whatever with it. Then we also have dynamic brakes, which I'll play for you. That's function 4. And notice right now that the locomotive is not idling, so obviously when it's idling it'll sound different. And then we also have function 3, which is the coupler. If you click function 3 off again, I think that's the uncoupling. You can hear the air hose pulling apart. And then there are a few other functions, but those are kind of the main ones. You have the horn, bell, dynamic brake. The short horn isn't function 3, obviously, because you can just do that with function 2 just by tapping it really quickly. Or you can do that for even shorter. So that's what we have for the actual sound functions. I guess that's about it. But now we'll probably do a comparison between the Soundtraxx model and the LokSound decoder, and we'll let you hear the difference, and you can decide for yourself which one you think is better. So we'll cut to that in just a second. So now we're going to do a quick sound comparison of the two locomotives. We'll just start each up and play their functions, and then you can compare them for yourselves. There are a few minor differences, but basically all the functions themselves on the decoder are mapped similarly. So now we will start this unit up for you. So that's the startup. It's very quick compared to the LokSound.
The first run of InterMountain is even faster.
Yeah. So that's even this is even the improved version of the older Soundtraxx decoder, and I think it sounds pretty good. So here's the horn, and then bell. Both of those are quite different from the LokSound decoder. The bell is slower, but you can change the rate of that, and the horn sounds dramatically different, I think. But I wouldn't say that the Soundtraxx decoder is bad. Actually, I really like it. It's just a little different. So then you can also do short horn on the Soundtraxx decoder, and function 3 is short horn, but on the LokSound it's actually the coupler, as I said earlier, and then dynamic brake is just kind of a hum. So, and then I'll just notch it up a little bit here. So there's that model. Now we will pull up the LokSound decoder and we'll listen to it. So.
Don't do the shutdown.
Oh yeah, I'll do the shutdown. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's not, nothing special. But
yeah, it just slowly shuts down. Alright, so that's that decoder, and now we'll look at the LokSound back here. So I'll just start this up for you. Nope, I won't.
Is it muted though?
Alright, here we go. Alright, so that was the startup. We'll do, obviously we showed you the horn and bell earlier, but just for comparison, we'll do it again. Do the dynamic brake. And if you've ever heard a GE locomotive in dynamic braking, I think that that sound is much more accurate than the Soundtraxx version. The Soundtraxx one is more generic, and it's not bad. It does sound like dynamic brakes. But this one's a little more specific to the GE model, so now I'll notch it up just a bit for you, and then that'll pretty much conclude our video, so get that one out of the way. So here. Another cool function that comes stock from the LokSound decoder is that a little bit of momentum is programmed into it. So if you just go full out from a standing start, it'll take a little bit to get up to it. So I think InterMountain has programmed that in from the factory. So that's kind of a cool feature. So that's about it, I think. Hopefully that covered most everything that you were looking for, or you just wanted to check out the Locomotive. We really like the LokSound. I think it is maybe a little step up, but I have nothing against Soundtraxx decoders. They're very good, and they're easy to deal with. I actually like them for programming more. But for the GE Evolution Series model specifically, I think LokSound has captured it more accurately, but they're both great models. None of the details really change between the two runs. But I think the sound itself is an upgrade, so yeah, that's all we have, and thank you for watching, and check out our other videos coming soon.